Okay, so I've got the stair that's existing in the space, but I'm going to make a new stair, and so I'll begin just by deleting that stair, and I want the new stair to be in a completely different area, and again I'm just going to keep using stair by sketch to make my stair. So make sure whenever you make stairs you're aware which option you're using, stair by component or stair by sketch. And so I'll just I'll change to my ground floor plan, and because I began in level 1 I've got to change the base level there to ground floor, and then change the top level to level 1. So you can always change the levels for your stair after you make it, or after you start making it. And then I can go to the run option and just draw in a quick footprint. And what I'm trying to show you here is how to change the railings really. So I want an L-shaped stair. So I'm going to make the stair go up and to the left through this column. I'm going to select that's fine, select the second shape there, and then just adjust it so that my landing works. So just using the arrows on the keyboard. So that's how I want the stair to be, and then I'll just move, again using the arrow keys initially to get that roughly in position. And then I'm going to use the move tool to get that to line up. Okay, so hopefully you're getting used to making stairs like that, and the more you work with the sketch tool the easier that'll become. But for now I'm just going to finish that because I really want to show you railings more than stairs. And so in my 3D view, you can see that the railing is automatically applied to the stairs. I might just get another 3D view so you can see that going through the floor above. So of course we'd have to cut a hole in the floor and the ceiling for that stair to come through, and that's a really easy thing to quickly do from above. And I'm going to assume I can get headroom from about there. So now with split I can just break the edge of the floor and then join those lines together. Okay, so then I've got the ceiling needs a hole in it as well. But I can just use the shape of the floor. I don't need to go and choose those same edges again. If I use tab, it should give me, in fact it will give me the outline, but in fact I'm not going to use that because it will choose the outer edges as well, and I don't want that. So I do need to go and pick those individually, unfortunately, and then again split and trim. So I've got a hole in my ceiling as well, and that's important so that we can see the railing come through both of those things. Now, if you're starting to think about what happens between the ceiling and the floor, you really begin to think as interior designers, because a lot of the work in interior design is resolving those details that people often don't think about when they're doing the architectural drawings. And so that's a real opportunity to do some interior finishes that, that again would be left off the architecturals quite often. So here I'm just going to bring that that ceiling up a little. I might just bring this wall up as well. Just want to get the ceiling to be higher so I don't have as much of a gap. And as you're making things like stairs, you should be thinking about all these little details. So there, I've still got a gap, but it's not as bad. Because again, I don't really want to be focusing on the floors and the ceilings, even though I'm thinking about it. I do want to make the railings though. So what I really wanted to show you was how to get a glass balustrade. And there you can see I've used a monolithic stair, so it's doing the thing it always does in Revit when you make a monolithic stair, and making the last tread the same height as the floor. And that's not something you should do. So if you really want a concrete stair, do you know the trick to make that come back? That's a concrete stair, you can see, because the stringer and the riser and the tread are tied in with the stringer. It's all one solid monolithic form. So I'll show you the trick while I'm at it. If you want that, there's a real trick. Edit the sketch and just bring it back one step. So what it should say is so many risers created minus one remaining. Now I've got a landing there, so that's okay. I can have my 23 risers, and I want the minus one remaining because then here it's going to give me a warning. I'm expecting that, that's fine. When I look at it in the section view, you can see the section box view, you can see that the last tread now is exactly one riser below the floor, as it should be. And then you bring the floor up to here, and the ceiling would cover the bottom of that stair. So that's one option. But it's not the option I'm going to use, so I'm going to undo that. Just wanted to show you, because it can be a bit confusing when you make concrete stairs at first. Instead, I'm going to set it to another kind of stair. And so notice how I've got an extra riser. It's taking up the last riser, the last riser. It doesn't have a tread anymore at the end, but it's gone up one riser too high. It's all to do with the way it makes monolithic stairs. So you can see now I've got desired number on 23, but the actual number is 24. Not a problem. I can change the desired number, so the number I want, to 24 as well. I've got 24 there, and I'm going to say I want 24. And then it will divide them up again properly between my levels. And that's not a bad thing, because you don't need to have the minimum number of risers every time. It's actually a good design option to have slightly lower risers than the maximum you can have. So people, when they're walking up the stairs, don't have to walk up something quite so steep. So I've got 170 risers there, even though I could have had slightly higher. So that's not a bad thing if you end up needing more, or if you end up having more risers than you need. But again, all that's just by way of getting to the railings, which is really what I wanted to show you. So there, I think I did show you earlier how you can get railings and stairs from the library. Do you want me to show you again? Because I know that's always a bit tricky. Okay, so the secret to it is open, don't load. And it's where everyone goes wrong. Even when you're choosing open, you might choose one of the options there when you don't need to. Now notice they've got a shortcut to sample files at the bottom. That's where I'm going. So when you go to open, you can go to sample files at the bottom there. But I'm going to recommend that you don't at first do it that way. Instead, just click where it says open. Don't even choose an option from here. Just click right where it says open. Or even click on the open button up the top. Same thing. And what that's going to do is make it open all supported files. That's what you're looking for down the bottom. So you don't want it to say just project files or just family files. You want all supported formats. And now I've got a shortcut to this, but I'll browse to the P drive and then interior design and Revit library. And you'll see there we've got sample files. And the reason I'm telling you to browse to it is because these files all look the same, but they're not. So this stairs file, if I open that, you'll see it's telling me it's upgrading it, which tells me it's from an older version. And that's exactly what I want, because the old stair tool, Stair by Sketch, uses an older type of stair. The new one, Stair by Component, makes a different kind of stair, and they're not interchangeable. So you need this old file to be able to get them into a stair you've made that way. So notice we've got all these pre-made stairs. After a while you'll realise you can make all of these just by fiddling with the properties in any stair you make yourself. But it still saves time if you can get them from this library, essentially. So say I want to keep it fairly simple because I do want to put a glass balustrade on the side, and with a stair like the one I'm tempted to choose with the middle stringer, that's going to be a problem. But yeah, no, I think I'll go just for this one here, for the timber housed stair, or in fact maybe one of the metal stairs, just something different. I don't do metal very often, so I'll choose this one. But it's mainly so you know how to get these from the library, so you can bring any of those in. And here we go, metal pan stair, that's what I'm going to use. And I'll change some of the properties of it once I get it into my file. So I've got my metal pan stair. You'll see why I'm choosing it in a minute when I put the railing on it. So copy the clipboard. That's the secret. You can't load these. So with furniture, doors, windows, you've got load family, and it's easy to bring them in from the library. But with stairs, you don't have that option. So you have to use here, copy the clipboard, then browse up the top to the file that you've been working in. So there's my file. Doesn't matter where you are, you can still switch to another view. So there's my old stair, and I'm going to go onto modify and then paste. I'm not going to choose a sub option there, I don't need to. I'm just going to click at the top there, which is going to give me paste, and I'm going to click somewhere, and it's telling me nothing visible in this view because I clicked in a silly place that was outside the model. But there's my stair. Okay, so that's my new kind of stair. And when you're working with something new, it's good to look in properties to see what it's called. So here, notice in properties it says stair, metal pan stair. So I know the name of it. That's all I need to know. Now in the view where I can see the stair I've made, I can choose my old stair, and then from the list there choose metal pan stair. So it's only changed it slightly, but that's enough for me. Now I maybe don't want those risers to be there. So I'm going to select that, edit type, and I'll show you a simple property you can change with your risers. You can just set the riser type to none. They're slanted at the moment, I don't want them at all. So I'm going to set that to none, click OK, and that's going to give me open risers. Now you can use the same approach to bring in railings. But have any of you had a look at the railing file and found any plain glass balustrades or railings there? So I've just clicked on open again, and I'm going to open the railings file in sample files. So I think I did show you this earlier, but doesn't it just show it again? Now that's almost a little bit cumbersome, but the stair tool in Revit is still far superior to the stair tool in ArchiCAD. If you've tried the one in ArchiCAD, it's a nightmare. It's still an advantage to have it. Now with Railings you can actually open the new version of the file, but doesn't hurt to open the old one. Okay, so these are all your pre-made railings. Some of them are pretty good, but unfortunately not many work all that well with stairs in any case. And if you want just a very simple balustrade, like a plain sheet of glass, you're not going to find one there. So I'll show you how to bring one in, but then I'll show you how to make a plain sheet of glass. So I'm just going to select that. This is one of the simpler ones. Commercial glass with fixings. So I'm going to use copy to clipboard, just like I did with the stair. Click on the little window button up here. Go back to my project file. There it is. Go to the Modify tab, click Paste, click OK if I get a warning or a message, and then just click somewhere to bring it into this file. Doesn't matter where, anywhere I'll do. Now I can delete it. I know what it's called, so I'll go into my 3D view, and now any railing in this file I can select, and then in Properties turn into that type, commercial glass with fixings. Now for once, it's actually working pretty well. Still not perfect though. Right, so there, you can see there we've got an issue at the end. It's trying to squeeze that panel into that length of railing, and it's not quite making it. And it's all to do with the way railings are made. Railings are often made of a set of panels, and if you don't have the panel set to a size that's going to work with the length you have, then it's obviously not going to work. And like a lot of things in Revit, it's based around the construction, and you do need to think in almost a mechanical or industrial design way to get things like railings and stairs designed properly. So again here, this panel is too small for that section of landing. So, and again, there's another issue you can see over here, sticking out again because it's too big for that part. So it's not going to work. Still useful though. You can sometimes get really good things from that railings file. But here, again, I just want to make a simpler railing. So that's really what I wanted to show you. So to do this, you need to be able to make your own family. So if you haven't been making your own families up to this point, you need to give it a go, because most of the design work you'll do after you've been using for a little while, you realise you do that by making your own families. So on the main menu, if you choose New and then Family, then it should take you to the folder with all of the templates. And again, if you haven't made many families, this might be new to you, but you've got to learn these templates. So it's not like a project where you only have a few templates to choose from. You've got architectural, construction, and then the engineering templates. With families, you have a whole series of them. But the one I'm going to show you, Metric Profile, is one of the easiest. Now, you even have Metric Profile Rail, which is set up just for railings. And that is a good one to use, but I'm not going to use it. Just to keep it simple, I'm going to use Metric Profile. Right, so what's the height of a balustrade? It's not a simple question, actually. I should have said what's the standard height. If you're not sure, look this stuff up in the BCA, which I've got on the P drive for you. So it's in Volume 1 and Volume 2. For residential, it's Volume 2, commercial, Volume 1. And so you can look it up there. What you'll find is that for stairs, it does vary a little bit. But the normal height is 1 metre. So if you're going to have it 1 metre next to your floors, why not just make it 1 metre for your stairs as well? So that's what we're trying to get. We're trying to get a glass panel that's 1 metre above the stairs. So I'm going to, on the Create tab, draw a line starting on the intersection there. I'm going to come up 1,000. Right, and then across, how thick's glass normally? No, a little bit thinner. So it's normally not more than 10 mil, but when you're drawing it, you can make it 20 just so that it shows up a bit more clearly. And so then coming down, I'm going to go down more than a metre because I want this glass panel to go below the stringer. And oh no, sorry, I've got a stringer. So I'm just going to keep it simple and go down to the baseline there. I'll show you how to extend it afterwards. So then I'll bring it across. So really simple. I've basically made a rectangle that's 1 metre by 20. But importantly, it's from this intersection here that I've measured that. So if you haven't made a family like this before, just make sure you realise that you don't have all the different tools that you have in a project. You've just got the line tool, which makes it really easy to work with because you can only draw a 2-dimensional shape, and that's a good thing. Okay, so I'm going to save that so you can access it. I'm just going to go Save As, Family, and I'm going to browse into the library on the P drive, and you'll see there's a Profiles folder there where I've probably saved quite a few of these before. And so here you can see there's an adjustable rectangle which we'll look at later as well, but I'll just save it as a rectangle 20 by 1,000. Hi. Yes, I'll go for it. So hopefully you can see how easy it is to make a 2-dimensional shape, and just think about how useful that can be for you, because once you can make your own shapes, you can use a lot of the tools in Revit that might have been difficult to work with. Have you tried using gutters and fascias and things like that? No? Okay, so we've got automatic gutters and fascias, and things like the floor edges can all be done with a similar approach, as long as you can draw a 2D shape. So that's really the key to it. And so now I've got my rectangle file saved in this Profiles folder. You can even just load it in from there. And now I can load it into my project. So here, loading the project, and I'm going to tick the file I've been working in. So I better give a new name, but I'll do that in a minute. So this is the tricky part. Now we've got to put this into that railing. So I'm going to select it. You can do it with any railing really, but I'm just going to use this one to start with. So it's again commercial glass with fixings. Edit type, and as normal when I'll get you to tell me, when you're making a new kind of something in Revit, what's usually the first step? If you want to make a new kind of wall, exactly, duplicate, that's right. Just in case we need to go back to that old one, I can duplicate it, and I'm going to call it commercial plain glass. Then, next to rail structure, I'm going to click Edit, and you'll see we've got a handrail and a bottom rail. I don't need the handrail, so I'm going to delete that. And don't worry about any warnings, just say yes if it gives you a warning. And then the bottom rail, I'm going to change to glass in the name, just to remind me what it is. The height, I'm going to set to 0. The offset, I'll also set to 0. And then the profile, I can then set to the one I've just made, rectangle 20 by 1,000. That easy. Now I can set the material to glass. So you might be thinking, well, that's not that hard. And the first part isn't. It's the next part where you're really just clearing things out. So I've got my glass panel set. That's already in there. But now I'm going to click OK, and then you'll see below rail structure you have baluster placement. And there you've got the second edit button. And we've got all of these panels, which are those panels you can see on the railing there. I don't want any of them. So I'm going to set the baluster family. Well, I could delete each level, but often it's easier just to set each of those baluster families to none. You've got to do it down the bottom anyway. You can't delete those. So all of those posts, again, you don't want to post here, so set them all to none. Check to see if it has an option for the excess lengths. Sometimes you've got to set that to none as well. Otherwise you're done. So once you've set all of these baluster family options to none, click OK. Here it's got baluster offset. I'm going to set that to 0 as well, even though we're not using a baluster. OK, there we go. How easy is that? It's just the second part where you've got to clear out all those families. That's a little bit fiddly, but otherwise not too bad. So that's actually done a pretty good job with the connections and the top, and well, the way it's joining here, I'd live with that. But there's another way if you want to make an adjustment. If you're not happy with the way it's connecting at the and projecting from the bottom there's another option which I'll show you. So I'll set this second railing to the same one, and then I'll show you how you can fix this if you're worried about that that way of connecting. Okay, it's all to do with the way you set the height. So it's a fairly easy thing to fix though, so I'm going to go and open it. The file I've just made. There it is, rectangle 20 by 1000. Okay, so I'm going to move that, the whole rectangle, from the top left corner down to the bottom left corner. So now it's going below the origin. Okay, so I'm going to save that file again. Load into project. Yep. And overwrite the existing version. And what you'll see then, if I look at the view, is that that railing now goes down below the stair. So I can select the railing, go to edit type, and then in the rail structure I'm going to click edit and change the height there to, probably guess it, 1000, which should then set the profile to measure down from 1000 above the stair height. And there we go. So the not covering the curve, it shouldn't have any problems with curves. Right. Yeah, I'll have a look at it. Yeah, sure. Okay, so sometimes that does work better. In this case, it's not really. I think it's actually worse in some ways. So, yeah, you've got to play around with it. It depends on the path, essentially, and sometimes it can work well doing it from the centre as well. But again, just to go and put it back, I'll do that because you don't want that in the original file. So I want to put that back. But I just wanted to show you that option. You can definitely get some good results. In some cases, anyway. So again, and it can just make it clear how you're setting the height. So again, now it's gone too high, but again, just in edit type, I can set the height there back to 0. And that's fixed it for both. And what else was I going to show you? Oh, yeah. So the glass there overlaps slightly with the stringer. So you can either adjust the stringer height or you can go and adjust the railing height. It's up to you. So I might adjust the railing height. Doesn't matter if it's more than a metre. I think rails, well, they're often way too low. Did you hear about the poor young guy in the QVB sliding down the stairs? I've always thought those balustrades were way too low. Yeah. And it's not just there. There are plenty of other buildings where it's just too low. I don't know why they let them build it like that. Partly, but on stairs you're allowed to take them lower than a metre, and so they would have been BCA compliant. Those stairs, just silly, yeah. So I think they should be more than a metre, personally. And also on tall buildings, when they've got them on the side of the building, it's again a bit hairy sometimes, and so nothing wrong with making them a bit higher. So with a bit of trial and error, you can get them to sit on top of your stringer. That's close enough, I think. And so you've got that railing for all the others that you want to do. So here where I've got that area next to my stair, I can do another railing now. And yeah, I'll just draw it along here. Set it to the one that I've made, commercial plain glass. Tick the finish. And right, so it's that easy. And again, then you can see why there's a reason that they allow that transition in, or they allow that lower height for stairs. Right, it's because when you're projecting from the stringer or from the angle of the stairs, you do end up with that higher panel for the top rail. It's always been a problem, but I think a better solution than trying to bring the stairs down, the railing for the stair, why not bring the other balustrade up? Sometimes it's better to do that. So, right, exactly, that's right, a lot safer. So now, unfortunately, you can't just go into the balustrade properties and change it. You need to do it in the profile. But again, it just gets you used to working with the profile. So again, I can either switch here if it's open, or I can just open the file same as before. So I'm going to select that and make it, it was 12:10 roughly that it needs to come up. And I'm going to save as. To make a new file. Now, if you're wondering if it's possible to make a rectangle that you can set to be any size, you definitely can. So using parameters, you can do that in Revit, but try this way first, and then we'll go more into parameters gradually. So again, now I've got the new file saved with the new size, and I can use load into project just to load that again into my project file, and then I can select the railing I've made, edit type, duplicate, and we'll call it plain glass 12:10, just the height, and then for the rail structure I can just choose that new profile. There we go. And of course you could draw that for the other side. This one I can just choose it from the list. And then maybe move it across. So I know they'll probably let you get away with railings like that in design that don't have much of a structure defined, but in real life, do you know how that sort of glass panel would be supported? Would they just... Well, yeah, that's one option, but you can do frameless. You might have seen. Yeah, they can do, that's right. They can have all sorts of structures that support it above the floor level. But you might have seen in catalogues or in real life around, especially around decks and things like that, they have frameless glass balustrades. It's definitely something you can do. Around pools they do it a lot, and it's being done more and more. So you can do it, but you just need to know how it's supported. You don't need to be able to model that at first, but you just need to be aware what's involved in the structure. So if you're not sure, it's done down in this area that I mentioned before. They'll have the glass extend down past the floor and even the ceiling. Right, so the glass sheet would basically be cantilevering up from that section of floor, and then they would cover that with a steel plate or something, and that would support it. So that's how they do it. And it looks frameless, it looks just like a floating sheet of glass, but it is supported. Oh, they use toughened glass, and yeah, so it's pretty tough. Glass is actually a pretty tough material. So you can do it. They just need to be aware that you need space below it to support it. You can't just have it floating by itself. Okay, so hopefully that'll give you some options. And it's a nice thing if you can have plain glass like that. It does render up pretty well. So I'll finish it there.